Where is the Blackfish? Brynden Rivers is one of the toughest and most enigmatic characters in A Song of Ice and Fire, and he has gone missing. He will surely resurface soon, but where and how? Let's take a look. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. On this channel we cover A Song of Ice and Fire in nerdy detail, as well as The Lord of the Rings, The Witcher and more. Welcome. Brynden the Blackfish Tully is one of many people's favourite characters in A Song of Ice and Fire. Tough, loyal and independent-minded, he played a major role in Robb's victories in the Riverlands and was entrusted by him with the safekeeping of Riverrun and Robb's wife and queen, Jane Westerling. Now, though, the Blackfish has been forced to abandon both of them and has gone missing. Where might he be, and when will he resurface? I'll leave a full background and character study of the Blackfish to another video, but briefly, he's the brother of Hoster Tully and uncle to Edmure, Cat and Lysa. He had a falling out with his brother a long time ago, who wanted him to marry, and followed Lysa to the Vale when she married Jon Arryn. When Cat arrives at the Eyrie in the main story, wanting the Vale's support in the coming war, Lysa said no, so the Blackfish quit his job there and then and went with Cat to support Robb and relieve the siege of Riverrun. He distinguished himself first by screening Robb's army's advance so he could launch a surprise attack, then leading the van in the Battle of the Camps. This is not a surprise, as the Blackfish was already an extremely well-respected leader and warrior, a veteran of 100 battles, we're told. He quickly becomes one of Robb's most trusted advisors, and when Robb heads north to the Twins for what will turn out to be the Red Wedding, he leaves the Blackfish in charge of Riverrun, basically guarding his rear and also protecting his wife and queen, Jane Westerling. And the Blackfish does indeed hold Riverrun long after Robb is dead and the Northern Alliance collapsed. The Freys besiege the castle unsuccessfully for a while, but then Jaime takes over. His clever move is to send Edmure in to tell the Blackfish to hand the castle over to him. It is Edmure's castle, after all, and Jaime had told Edmure all the terrible things he'd do to his unborn child and the innocent people of the Riverlands if he didn't do it. So Edmure does it, and the castle is handed to the Lannisters and the Freys. But Edmure is forced to admit that he let the Blackfish escape. This troubles Jaime, and he thinks on it a few times, scouring over the map to try to work out where he might have gone, adding extra soldiers to guard people and places he thinks the Blackfish might try to attack, asking defeated lords if they'd seen him. At one point, he even thinks to himself that finding the Blackfish is the last thing he really needs to do before safely returning to King's Landing, the Riverlands safely conquered and subdued. So, George R. R. Martin clearly wants us to be wondering where he has gone. So, where has he gone? Well, let's start by working out what he wants to do now. As a Tully, family, duty and honour are important to him, and yes, I know he seemed to go against that when told to marry by his brother all those years ago and refusing, but that seems to be a one-off for probably very specific reasons, and he made peace with his brother before Hoster died. Everything we have read in this story suggests that he is laser-focused on family, duty and honour. Witness what he said to Cat about leaving the Eyrie to help defend his family at Riverrun. I asked your sister for leave to take 1,000 seasoned men and ride for Riverrun with all haste. Do you know what she told me? The Vale cannot spare 1,000 swords, nor even one, uncle, she said. You are the Knight of the Gate. Your place is here. Well, I told her she could bloody well find herself a new Knight of the Gate. Blackfish or no, I am still a Tully. I shall leave for Riverrun by evenfall. So he valued protecting his family and being a Tully over his new life in the Vale. When Jaime tries to bargain with him to surrender Riverrun, we get this exchange between the two of them. Will you exchange the Westerlings for Edmure? Asks Jaime. No, my king entrusted his queen to my keeping, and I swore to keep her safe. I will not hand her over to a Frey noose. The girl has been pardoned. No harm will come to her. You have my word on that. Your word of honour? Sir Brynden raised his eyebrow. Do you even know what honour is? So he clearly takes seriously the vow he made to Robb, his king, to protect Jane. I see no reason why that would change just because he's been forced to flee Riverrun. He's a resourceful man who takes his vows seriously, so would surely just see that as a temporary setback. And Jaime is concerned that the Blackfish will try to stop the wagon train that Jaime sends to the Westerlands containing Jane and Edmure, so he doubles the guard on it, then doubles it again, as he says to its commander, Fawley Prester, "We don't know where the Blackfish is, but if he can cut Edmure free, he will." So I think we've got a good idea of what the Blackfish is likely to want to do: rally the Riverlands, retake Riverrun, and rescue Jane and Edmure. But how? He's just one man. A resourceful and redoubtable man, but just one man. He will need to get himself some support from somewhere. But where? Some suggest he might go to the Vale. He has contacts there, of course, but he had left there because they wouldn't provide any support earlier in the war. Or his niece Lysa had refused to provide any support. He had no reason to think that she would have changed her mind, although he might have heard that she was dead. That had happened a couple of months earlier. If he'd heard that, though, he would almost certainly have also heard that Littlefinger was now Lord Protector. He did know Littlefinger from when he had been fostered in Riverrun, but everyone knew that Littlefinger had been granted lands in the Riverlands by the Lannisters, so could the Blackfish rely on him for help? It would be quite a gamble, and with winter coming, the pass through the Mountains of the Moon would soon close, meaning it would be months at best before he could get any help from there, if any help could even be got, and by then Jane and Edmure would be locked up in Casterly Rock. So on balance, although I wouldn't rule it out, this doesn't seem like a very likely place for him to go. The same obviously goes for trying to get help from the north. That's a very long way away, and who would he even go to for help there? The Boltons were now in charge. One intriguing possibility is that he might have gone to the Wall to report to his new king, John. The Blackfish may not have been a witness to Robb's will, but Edmure was, and knew Robb had named John, and Edmure and the Blackfish had time for a long conversation at Riverrun. It was hours after Edmure was admitted before they opened the gates of the Lannisters. What might they have talked about during that time? How best to proceed from there and protect everyone they needed to protect, of course, but also, now that Robb was dead, who his heir was. So, might he have gone to the Wall to report to his new king? I suppose it's possible, but that would mean abandoning his orders in the Riverlands and Jane and Edmure. Instead, I suspect that he sent loyal men to the Wall to report in for him. It's easily overlooked, but after taking Riverrun, Jaime releases the garrison there in return for a vow never to take up arms against the Lannisters. We'll come back to that in a moment, don't worry. But two knights, Sir Desmond Grell and Sir Robin Ryger, refuse, and instead ask to be allowed to go to the Wall to join the Night's Watch. These aren't ordinary knights, though. They are the Master-at-Arms and Captain of the Guard at Riverrun, Tully Loyalists. Jaime allows them this, though he considers it, and I quote, a bloody nuisance. My guess is that these two aren't going to join the Night's Watch. They're going to report to their new king, so the Blackfish can stay in the Riverlands. Incidentally, while we're on minor digressions, there was a theory out there a few years ago that maybe the Blackfish had escaped with Jane Westerling, leaving a lookalike in her place. This stemmed from a slight difference in description of her hips when Jaime sees her at Riverrun compared to when Kat assesses her earlier. But George R. R. Martin has since confirmed that that was just a human error on his part, and besides, I'm sure her mother, whose loyalty had been bought by Tywin Lannister, would have noticed the imposter. So, no, the Blackfish escaped on his own. So if he didn't go east or north and there's no help for him west or south, where did he go to get some support? Well, I don't think he actually needs to go outside the Riverlands at all. We've seen that he knows the land well, so won't be lacking for hiding places, and he will want to stay close to the action if he does want to try to rescue his family and relieve Riverrun. And crucially, he is also spoiled for choice about where he might get support in the Riverlands. First, we have the Riverrun garrison. I mentioned earlier that Jaime stripped them of their armour and weapons and released them out into the Riverlands in exchange for an oath that they wouldn't take up arms against the Lannisters again. Which was very lenient of him. One can't imagine Tywin doing that, for example, and probably doesn't offer the guarantees that you might think. His Aunt Jenna, always an astute judge of character, thinks that Jaime would be lucky if 1 in 10 actually honoured that vow made under duress. So the Blackfish need only find them, and most of them will probably follow him. He just needs to find them some weapons and armour. And that will also be a lot easier than you might think, because although the Riverlords had been conquered by the Lannisters and Freys, no one was under any illusion that they were willing subjects. As Jaime himself thinks when pondering who to send to hunt for the Blackfish, He had considered enlisting the Riverlords as well, but Vance and Piper and their ilk were more like to help the Blackfish escape than clap him into fetters. So, without going far, the Blackfish can get perhaps 200 men and expect help from the local lords for provisions and equipment. That's a good start. Then there are others in the Riverlands who might take his side. Lady Stoneheart is of course his niece Cat, and she is happily using the Brotherhood without banners to kill Lannisters and Freys. He won't know that she is still alive, or unalive, or whatever the right term is, but perhaps the Brotherhood will find him. They have spies everywhere, including Tomo Sevenstrings in Riverrun, who will know that the Blackfish has escaped and will surely pass it on. So perhaps there will be some kind of alliance there. Or perhaps with the members of the Brotherhood who left when Lady Stoneheart took over. And there is also Nymeria's super pack of wolves, who are terrorising the Freys and Lannisters in the region. We're obviously not talking an alliance there, but they could turn up to support him in a battle with the Freys or Lannisters. All in all, Brynden the Blackfish Tully doesn't need to go anywhere else than the Riverlands to build an effective resistance. And why would he leave anyway? He is the newly appointed Warden of the Southern Marches and takes that seriously. He is not about to abandon his commission. And crucially, he's also not about to abandon his family, or his commission to protect Jane Westerling in particular, so that is probably where we will next see him. The Blackfish has explicitly said that he will not allow her to go into the hands of his enemies, and Jamie has judged that the Blackfish will try to ambush the wagon train heading west, hence him doubling then doubling again the guard. And as George R. R. Martin has confirmed that Jane Westerling, last seen in that wagon train heading west, will be appearing in the prologue to The Winds of Winter, that means the most likely place we will see the Blackfish again is in that same prologue, trying to rescue her and Edmure, along with the Riverrun garrison, logistical help from the Riverlords, and perhaps also the involvement of the Brotherhood without banners and Nymeria's super pack of wolves. Will he succeed? Well, given that Fawley Prester has orders to execute his prisoners at the first sign of an attack, it won't be easy. But if anyone can do it, the Blackfish can. If you'd like to see more A Song of Ice and Fire videos like this, there's a link to my playlist on the left of your screen now. Or to support this channel, thank you. There's a link to my Patreon page on the right of your screen. Thanks for watching. That's all for this time. I'll see you again soon.